Hi, my name is Keith Cooper, Northflight Images. In this short video I'm just going to look at a subject which appears to have become popular again, and that's about the integrity of photographic images. Now I'm not going to specifically address AI image creation, AI image editing, which there's an awful lot been spoken about of late, but some historic context for this that may be of interest, and a couple of websites which I'll put in the notes to this which you might want to have a look at. Why am I interested in historical websites for it? Well, one of my previous careers was looking at new and emerging technologies and how they would change aspects of business and organizations, how people would adopt new technologies. That means an awful lot of what we've seen of late hasn't been a big surprise, and I'm talking of the last 20 years here, hasn't been a big surprise to me. It's just been impossible to predict accurately, and it's happened at rates differing from what I thought might occur in uptake of things. Video conferencing is a classic example of that. I was involved in a lot of video conferencing research back in the 1990s, and a lot of the problems people have with using videos now were quite apparent even then, using very different equipment, very different software, but the principles behind it. And it goes back to saying that if you want to see how much something new, look for historical perspectives on it. I had to do a talk at a conference once on disintermediation and marketplaces. This was 20 odd years ago, and it was that that business was going to be entirely changed by the way that online marketplaces and other things would impact every single aspect of business. Now, my natural historical perspective on this is that there's nothing new under the sun. And if you want to go back, I started the particular talk there by references to business practices in ancient Mesopotamia. Now, nobody's going to trump you much on that, but for manipulated images, we can go back to a lot of people wondering about the introduction of photography in the 19th century, how that changed things, what was real and what impact was it going to have. Now, I'm not going to talk about the impact on professional photographers of coming AI changes. There undoubtedly will be many, but like many of these things, some things will be vastly oversold and there may be consequences we don't think. But this is just one particular little bit looking at two aspects of can you trust a photographic image. Now, I've thought about this quite a lot. I mean, this particular image I produced about 15 years ago, possibly. It is a picture of a rising moon over the National Space Centre in Leicester. The moon was actually rising. It's just that the moon is much bigger here than you would have seen it at the time, because I used a different lens to take a picture of the moon and then superimposed it in the place. So that's a fake image. Well, it's only partially fake. Depends on the job you want. It was a very popular image and was used for promoting the place. This is the full image. It was usually cropped down a bit from this. The colour in this, the bright colours, is from a photograph taken on the opening night for this place, the National Space Centre here. So even these colours weren't here. Everything was here, but at a different time. So that's an image of mine. What about this stuff I'm saying about can images be trusted? I noticed some forum discussions, and these are always interesting to look at, people saying AI manipulation of images is right out of order. We need things to guarantee that images are as they were taken. Well, you think, well, what does that actually mean? That's difficult to work out. Now, first of these sites I'm going to look at, and the sites themselves don't exist anymore, which should give you a clue as to how popular the concepts were that they were pushing forward. The first one is called FoundView. Now, this one is basically saying is about the purity of the image, that it is as it was taken and wasn't manipulated. Well, of course, you immediately wonder about the moment I create an image with a camera and process the file, say it's processing a raw file, I'm changing things. What am I allowed to do? Well, I put a link up in the notes for this so you can actually go through and read all the stuff. And Despite my somewhat light-hearted attitude towards these sites, it is worth looking at and thinking about, even if you think, yeah, this ain't going nowhere, which this particular one didn't. Now, this is FoundView. This is an archive of that site, and this one dates from about 1999, and this was copied from it. It's got lots of details as to the history of imaging, the history of image manipulation, what really matters. And it's important to notice that this didn't last very long, and there's a note at the top of it that says this is an archive copy of the FoundView movement, now defunct and replaced by TrustImage. TrustImage, another one that I'm going to suspect you've probably never heard of. Now for this, if I go to the TrustImage site, it's not there, but help is at hand, as often with the WayBack machine. The archive.org, place to go to look for dead web pages. Because I don't get rid of links, useful links in my own website, and that goes back 20 years, I make use of this quite a bit. I will find, if I find an interesting article and the link just disappears, I quite often check through my links and try and update it with a link using the WayBack machine. So I can look at this and I can see that there was a big flurry of activity here in around about 2005. And this is after digital was becoming much more popular. Digital became more popular from 2002, 2003 for professional photography use, and people were getting more bothered by this. So this is looking at the archive here, and I can see immediately that there is a whole flurry of activity in 2005, 2007, 8, 9, 2011. There are less snapshots taken, which usually tells you there was less happening on the site. And indeed, if I go back, I go to one of the more recent connections, I will find that the site is a small version of the site because it was being rewritten for greater things. Never happened. If I go back to one of the older copies here, this is 2007. There's a whole load of information about TrustImage, what it means, qualifiers, how you can use the TrustImage mark on your photographs to imply, to say that they're real, and there are definitions of what real means here. If I look at that, this has a lot of content on it. You'll have to go through the I'll put the links here for all of this so you can explore it, but you'll have to have a look through all of these to find out just what it means and whether you think it's still relevant. This matches so much many of the statements I've seen on forums about AI images are not real. Now, AI images, obviously, they're not going to make any of these because these are meant for reality of image. I mean, the moment you start looking at what does a real photo actually mean, it's very difficult to say. But two very interesting things, TrustImage and FoundView. If you're interested in the impact of AI and stuff, these really do deserve to be known. Because, they may have come and gone, but there are some important principles, and there is a lot of arguments behind the principles there, why they matter. It's worth looking at this just to get yourself a bit of background next time someone goes on about AI images not being real. I don't think many people would agree with that. But the thing is, the definition of reality has altered somewhat over the years. Hope this has been of a bit of interest. Do have a look at these. They're fascinating to read, and obviously a lot of work went into them, but nothing came of it. What's to happen with AI generated images? I don't know. It will have less of an impact, I suspect, on myself as a working photographer because of my age, and that retirement's an option for me in a few years, and so I needn't necessarily worry about photography having to support me. But if you're a professional photographer these days and you were hoping of a 15, 20 years future ahead of you in the market, you really need to have a look at some of this stuff and current developments as well. But this is my sort of contribution to saying, always look at the historical similarities. There really is nothing that new under the sun. Although the new technologies, every time they come about, you will hear the "it's different this time." Maybe it will be one day, but most times it's not been nearly as different as people had hoped. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm away doing some work for a while, so this is, my videos will resume once I come back. But please do, I'll be checking things. So if you've got any questions on this or my potential move to the Fuji GFX 100S, let me know. Thanks and bye.